Hello everyone, welcome back. In the previous video, we were working inside of our gameplay game mode and our gameplay player controller to get to the point where we can go from the front end into the lobby, and from the lobby select a character and then transition into one of our selected gameplay maps. So we've gone through the whole flow essentially. What we're going to do in this video is do a little bit of cleanup and some last lingering things that we need to do, such as our error dialog, what happens when we get an error, as well as a little bit of polish, and then we should be able to test. We'll test with Steam integration here towards the end of this video, as well as test locally in 2 versions of the project to show you how you can do that. So let's go and continue. The first thing that I wanted to do is fix one of the issues that I noticed towards the end of the last video. So if we hop over to our maps and we just go to, say, Arena 01, for example, and you can change this to a play and editor session or new window. When we play, if we spawn in, I noticed that there was a second character there because we forgot to actually do something inside of our gameplay game mode, which we did in our lobby, but we didn't do in the gameplay game mode. I thought there was an extra character in the level that we forgot to delete, but that wasn't the case. Something very simple, actually. Let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go ahead and go to the gameplay folder inside of our blueprints and open up the gameplay game mode. Double-click, open that up. And inside of this, all we forgot to do is destroy the pawn before we spawn a new one, like we did in our lobby. So on this respawn player event here, we need to drag off the player controller and just check if we have a controlled pawn. So get controlled pawn is what we need to do. And we did this in our lobby, like I said. Just forgot to do it here. So what we'll do is drag off the get controlled pawn, drag off this and say is valid. Do we have a controlled pawn? I'm going to plug this after the spawn points here. Just move this over a little bit more. We can move this over a little bit more if we want. So do we have a controlled pawn? If we do, we need to destroy that before we spawn another one. So we'll drag off this and say destroy actor. Now we can plug that in. Plug this in. If we don't have a controlled pawn, then we can just spawn in an actor like so. So that should fix that. Let's compile and save, and let's test that. So let's just play. We should spawn in as a character. We shouldn't see a second character in here now, which we don't, so it looks like it's working. Cool, we should still be able to press T, I think, and type, but we won't see our name, will we? Nope, we won't see our name because we haven't gone through the whole flow here, which is expected, that's fine. Let's go ahead and let's go make sure that we're on our main menu map. So we're starting from the beginning. And let's go ahead and do our error dialog real quick, because that's going to be pretty simple to do, the menu. So let's go to the lobby folder, or excuse me, the, where is it? Main menu? There it is. The main menu folder is where it is. Open up the error dialog. And mine opened off screen. Let me drag that in. And for this, we're going to make a simple overlay here. So I'm going to take the canvas panel and just delete this. And let's actually add an overlay. So under panel, we'll take an overlay, drag and drop that on. And let's see, let's take a border, put that on top of the overlay. And then let's take a vertical box. So a vertical box somewhere in here. I keep scrolling right over it, there it is. So vertical box on top of the border. Inside the vertical box, we're gonna have some text for our error message. So we'll take text. Drag that in, and then we'll need a spacer. So let's take a spacer under primitive, drag that in, and at the very bottom we'll have a button that we can press signifying that we've read the message. So we'll take a button, put that in. On top of the button we'll have some text, so we'll put some text on top of the button, and I'll call this button the OK button. And let's go ahead and just change the text while we're at it. The text will say OK, or whatever you want the button to say. So let's make some quick changes here. Let's go to the border, and let's go ahead and stretch this out, and we'll take the RGB values for that. Let's zero these out. And we'll leave the overlay at, let's say, 0.75, so it's a little bit darker. Let's see, on the vertical box, should be good. On the text, we need to make some changes to this. Let's see, the text we will set to fill, so it fills this window. And then let's go ahead and center the text just because I want to center it. Make the message look a little bit different. No, let's not center it. We'll leave it justified left and we'll auto wrap it. So if our message is really, really long, it'll wrap around. I think that's fine. We'll do that. Center it if you'd like. So we'll do that. And then we'll take our spacer and give it a little bit of space. I don't anticipate a message being super long, but we'll give it a little bit of space in between our message and the button. So for this, we'll go to the size. I'll set this to say 100. So it gives it a little bit of a buffer below the button. And then on the button itself, we can style this. If we go into Appearance, Style, Hovered, we go to Tint, click this, and change it to our yellow selection so that we're highlighting it, like so. And that's going to be our error dialog message. It's really simple. We'll come back and bind this text in a moment. Let's just go ahead and compile and save for now. We'll hop over to the graph because the graph's going to be very short. So we don't need the event construct. So let's go ahead and delete that. We don't need the event tick either. All we need to do is determine what happens when we click on the button. So we'll click the plus sign here. And let's go ahead and let's right click and say get game instance. Usually we've been doing this off the event construct, but we'll just do it here because this is the only bit of script that we're going to have. We'll say cast to game info instance. Hook that up. That in. And what we're going to do now is call destroy session. So we'll destroy the session just in case. Player controller is the owning player controller. And then once we do that, we'll then we'll return you to the main menu. So show main menu, like so. And then we'll remove from parent. We'll remove this message once we've clicked on the button. Remove, I said remove button. Remove from parent. I was thinking button, so I just typing button. So that's all we're going to do. When we get the message, whenever an error occurs, this message will appear with the text, and it'll say OK at the bottom. And then when we've read it, we'll say OK. We click it. It'll destroy the session for us, return us to the main menu, and then remove this message. So that's all we really need to do for this. So I'll comment around this and just say proceed to main menu when the OK button is clicked. Like so. So let's compile and save this, and we'll go to the Designer tab, and then we'll bind this text here. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's see, for the text, we want to, let's see, I think we need a variable actually, but we'll create that in a minute. Let's just bind the text here. So we're going to create a binding. And let's see, for this, all we're going to do is, yep, we need that variable. We're going to create a variable. Variable is going to be called just message. It's fine. It's going to be a string. Like so. And let's compile that. And we're going to take this string and convert it to text here. So control drag it in, like so. Then I'm going to rename this function to get message. And we're going to need a function called set message here. So how do we actually set this string here? We're going to have a function in here to handle this. So let's create a function. This function is going to be called set message. So it's going to have a string input. And that's just going to be called the incoming message. So, and that's how we're going to set this value message, is through this function. So we're going to call this set message externally, which will set this value that is bound to get message. Essentially, we can't bind it directly because it's a string, and our text value only knows about text variables. So that's why we need to do it this way. So let's compile and save, and our error dialog is set up. Now we need to hop into our game info instance because there's a little bit of script in here that we haven't done yet. So let's go ahead and do this. And we'll go to all levels, game info instance, put this up. And inside of this, we have created, all the way to the right here, handling for error messages, travel error, network error, and we have our macro. If we double click our macro, we have not set this up yet, as well as converting net error and travel errors to strings. So we're going to do that right now. Let's go ahead and do this. And let's see, let's just drag this over just a little bit. This should be good. Okay, let's go ahead and look under widgets here. We don't have an error dialog widget, which we'll create in a moment. So first of all, let's right click and say create widget. That widget is going to be an error dialog. Error dialog. We'll right click and promote this to a variable, which we'll call error dialog WB. And we'll put it under widgets. So. And now we can control drag that in, and we can say is valid. First thing we're doing is checking to see if we've already created this widget. Let's move this over just a little bit. Okay, and then let's drag. Let's see. There's one other thing we need to do actually. Let's drag, or let's hold B and left click to create a branch. We need to see if this message is already up in the viewport. There's a way to do that. We can drag out this and say is in viewport. And let's go ahead and drag this in, because we don't want to have two messages. If we have two messages come up, we don't want to have them appear on top of each other. We'll do them back to back. So let's connect that in. We'll connect this to the true. And for the false, we can, or is the, excuse me, the is not valid, we can plug that in here because we haven't created it yet. And for our branch here, if it is in viewport, let's go ahead and drag off of this and say remove from parent. Remove from parent. After we remove it, we're then going to create a new one. So let's go ahead and plug this in there, like so. If it's not in the viewport, let's go ahead and just drag another copy in, because I don't want to keep going back to that one back there. If it's not in the viewport, we're then going to call that set message. So let's drag off of this and say set message. So it's not in the viewport. Let's go ahead and set the message. Move this down just a little bit more. Okay. And let's go ahead and plug this in right here. After we've created it, we're still going to call set message. Like so. And let's go ahead and drag off of this and add to viewport now. So add to viewport. In either case, we're going to add it to the viewport. Now we still need to specify what the incoming message is. That's going to come from the error message here. So I'm going to get creative with this and kind of drag down here and say reroute. Drag over here and say reroute. And plug that in up there. So that will feed through the message to our error dialog, which we just set up a minute ago. And that's all we need to do for this macro, actually. So let's compile and save. We still need to determine what this is, and we're going to do that with our net error and travel error functions here. So let's do the net error first. So we'll double click on this, move this over, break this apart. So for this, we can drag off the failure type here, and there's a switch called switch on eNetwork failure. Should be the only option there if you drag off the failure type. Switch on eNetwork failure is what we're going to use here. I'm going to expand this. It's going to give us a bunch of different failure types that exist. So what we'll do is, let's see, did we create our error string yet? No. So we have an out string. Let's go ahead and right click and promote this to a variable here. So we'll promote this to a variable called error string, like so. And then let's alt drag that in. And let's say, we'll say that this one is error lost connection to host. And then we're going to copy this and paste this. And the different error this time is, let's say, connection timed out. So it gives us some errors here. Now you could do a string for each one of these and say, you know, error, driver already exists, error, create failure, listen failure, etc. All we're going to do, though, is take our connection timed out here and plug that in here. The rest of these are going to go to lost connection with host, because essentially that's what's happening. So let's go ahead and just plug all of these in, like so. Like so. And in either case, we're going to go to the return node here. And we're setting that string, so this will be the out string that gets passed to our macro. So that's the net error to string. Let's go ahead and do the travel error to string now. And for this one, what we'll do is, let's see. Is there a switch on failure type for this? Let's see. You travel, yeah, there is. So you could do the same thing here. You could do the reason why you failed to travel, but what we're going to do instead is I'm going to use an append node, so append string, and what we'll say is error failed to travel. And if we drag off of this now and connect this in the B, it should convert it for us. So it'll say error failed to travel. Let's add a period at the end of this too. And then space. Enter. Error failed to travel, the reason that we failed to travel, because we've connected that in. And that's going to be our string. So let's go ahead and do that. It's just a different way of doing it. OK, let's compile and save. And let's close that out. And there's not a real good way to test this. You could do some cable pulling if you want to try it. But I think this is good for now. Let's go ahead and do the last little bit of polish that we're going to do, and let's test this whole thing out here. So let's go down to our lobby and let's go to our lobby menu. One of the things that will help make this stand out a little bit better is if we take let's see, our lobby settings and our not player list. Our chat is a separate window, but our lobby settings, what I'm going to do is go down and change the alpha on this from 0.5 to 0.75. So it's a little bit darker than this side, just so it'll read a little bit better. You can open up the chat window and do the same thing if you'd like. This is totally optional right now, what we're doing. You can go ahead and pause this or not do this, but it's just something that I wanted to do. So let's go ahead, and the border for this, we'll set this to 0.75 too. So, just so it reads a little bit better. And let's see, now this side's a little bit darker than this side, so kind of compare and contrast there. For our game settings, definitely want to change these. So I'm going to edit the widget blueprint. The border for this, we'll make this, we'll make it 1 so it is fully black like this, so it covers up the background. So, and we'll do the same thing for the character select. So let's right click, edit. You could set these to 0.75 too if you want, but I'm going to make them completely black so we don't have any artifacts in the background. Like so. All right. Let's go ahead and test this locally, and then what we'll do is I'll pause and copy the project over to my laptop so that we can run a Steam version test of this. So everything should be working. What I'm going to do now is let's browse to, let's see, show in Explorer, and drag this in. I'm going to go up to my project here and minimize this. And I'm going to copy this and just paste it in here. Some other projects in here, it looks like. So once it's done, I can go into this copy now. I can go into saves. I can go into save games and delete this. That's our save file. So I can go up now to the root here. I can right click on this and say launch game. And it should bring us to the player options where I have to enter my player name because there's no save file. So it opened up off screen. Let me just drag it in, which it did. Please set up your player profile to continue because we have no save file. So I'm going to say this is copy man and pick, I don't know, that as his avatar. If I go into options, it should be saved, which it is. I'm going to drag this off screen for just a second, and I'm going to hop up to my root and go to the other project now and open this by launching game. And that's going to open up off screen. So now we are using two different projects. So we should see in our lobby our two different characters. Now this one has a save file. This is Mr. Nice Guy. So he is good to go. Mr. Nice Guy is going to host a game. So we'll say, I don't know, Fun Times is the name of the server. Except, again, we're testing on that right now. In a second, we'll test with the internet. So our menu looks a little bit different now. It's a little bit, it could probably still be better, but you get the idea. I'm going to change some game settings. This reads a lot better now. It's because there's no text in the background kind of being overlaid on top of this. So I'm going to hit accept. And when this project comes in, he should come in and see Arena 02. He should also see that this server has selected a character. So let's drag this in and we'll say find a match. LAN, searching. And yes, let's join that match. And copy man is in. Oh, there's one other thing that I want to fix too. We'll fix this after this. So copy man is in, and we should see that on our server too. Copy man is in. And let's go ahead and select a character. Can't select Frosty because it was already selected. So we'll select this guy. There we go. We have two different characters. Oh, two other things. We want to be able to press T to toggle menus. We didn't do that either. So we'll fix both of those. So Mr. Nice Guy's in, and he can say, oh, this also says start session. Why does that say start session? That should say ready. We got to fix that too. Getting down to the nitty gritty. Last couple of things that we're going to fix. This should say ready, so we'll fix that. He shouldn't be able to start session, but did we not bind that? All right. So he's ready. He appears as he's ready. He can say, okay, let's start it. We both come in with our selected characters. We are both in Arena 02. Hello. And if we type, it should say copy man and this guy. Shift F1. I can't get out of this window. There we go. There we go. Yep. So we are almost done. Just a couple things to fix here. So I'm going to quit and quit. Last couple of things to fix, and then we'll pause so that I can copy this project over to my laptop so that we can test it out with Steam up and running. So first thing that we're going to fix is if we go to our characters, our base character. Let me drag this in. Let's go to the mesh and go ahead and click this here to reset to none. So we have no character. It's just going to be a kind of like a spectator mode, essentially. Player will still be able to move around, ASWD to move around, etc. Probably will have collision on it. You can set that to no collision for this character if you want, but then you'll pass through the world. A couple other minor things, or leave the character if you want. That's totally up to you as well. But I think this is good. Let's just do it like this. So let's do that. And let's see. Let's open the lobby menu. So I want to fix this. Lobby menu, this text, we did not bind it. Of course we didn't. So this text should be bound to ready button, ready status. Is it ready button text? Let me just double check. It's ready button text. So we need to bind this text to ready button text. Can't believe we forgot to do that. Let's compile and save that. That is done. And last thing we want to be able to do is press T to toggle our menus. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's super simple. We're going to do that inside of the lobby game mode, I believe. Or no, lobby player controller. So let's go ahead and open up the lobby player controller. And inside of this, kind of like what we did with our T to type, we're going to say right click and say T to toggle. And this time it's a flip flop. So let's flip flop. Let's connect this up off the pressed. And we're going to take our lobby menu widget, control drag that in, drag off of this, and we're going to, what are those frames called actually? So what do we call them? So we have lobby settings and we have player list. Those are the windows that we want to go away. So let's say get lobby settings. Did we not make those variables? Got to make those variables so that we can access them. So lobby settings inside of our lobby menu. Let's go ahead and check that is variable. And player list is variable. What you're seeing now is how the project was actually put together, this back and forth between blueprints, noticing things that need to be variables, noticing things that you need to access, etc. The way that we've kind of taught this series, we kind of set up some functions and things that we were going to call eventually so that we can get through the whole blueprint. But this is how the project was actually constructed, the real world hopping back and forth between blueprints to access things that we need. So let's go back to our lobby player controller. We should be able to access that now. We could say get player list and get lobby settings. Did we call it player list? Yep. So player list and lobby settings. Now both of those we could set the visibility on those. So we could say set visibility, and we can say let's copy and paste this because we're going to need it again. So by default, they're on. When we press T, they'll be hidden. When we press T again, they will be visible. We can plug this one in to there. We can plug this one into there. And we can plug this one into there. And the A and the B. So let's add a comment around that. And we'll just say toggle the lobby menu display. All right, let's compile and save. And let's close this out, close this out. And we're going to pause for just a second so I can copy this project over to my laptop, and then we'll test it out with Steam, and that's going to be the end of this series. So I'm going to pause for a second, and we'll pick it back up here in a second. All right, guys, I've zipped up my project. Before I did that, though, I went into the save file, save games, and deleted the save asset, and then zipped it up and copied it over to my laptop. So my laptop is currently up and running and hosting a game for us to join. So let's start from a fresh project here. Going to launch the game. And it's going to load off screen here for a second. We should get our profile, set profile window. Let me just drag this in now. So, and Steam is enabled. Yes, it is. It just popped up. It took a second for it to pop up. So Steam is up and running. And this is the Computer Man. So, and Computer Man has this cool avatar. Make sure my laptop has a different one. So we'll pick this one. Get saved. And we could host a match, but there's already one hosted, so we're going to look for one. And we're now going to search via internet. So I'm going to do a search, hit accept. Match available, join the match, hit accept. It'll load. And in just a second, we should pop in, which we do. And Laptop Man is going to select a character, like so. And as the computer here, I can see he's selected Frosty over there. And I can select a character as well. Can't select Frosty because it's already selected. So I'll pick Tusk. And now both of us are in here. I could hit T still and toggle that. In fact, I could hit T and Laptop can chat to me, like so. And with my guy, I can chat back, so. And the server can start the session. But before he does that, actually, let's turn back on our thing here. And let's change some game settings. Make sure everything still works. So now we're going into Arena 02. And we are ready. And server starts the session. Loads. And there's our server friend. Here we are. There's the laptop guy. I can press T to start chatting and say hello. And so can Serverman. So there we go. We have set up our little multiplayer project incorporating Steam from the front end into a lobby where we can select characters and chat with one another and change game settings and proceed all the way into gameplay. Like I mentioned before, the friends list and some of the additional Steam functionality is only accessible when you get your app ID from Steam. Then you'll have access to that functionality. And some of that stuff is still not exposed via blueprints yet. We hope to maybe turn this into a C++ tutorial as well, so that we can access some of that stuff until it comes online with blueprints. But for now, this should get you into a multiplayer game from beginning to end. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.